We are controlling the broadcast.
For the next hour we will control all that you hear.
You are about to experience the knowledge and insights of the media mothership.
All right, welcome here to Edge Radio 99.3 FM. This is Media Mothership, broadcasting as always out of the Edge Radio studios here, the fine studios of Edge Radio at Nipaluna, Hobart, Tasmania.
Very fine.
Very fine. I'm your host, Dr. Craig, and we just heard there from my co-host, Lord Taylor.
Yes. Not singing, the person that was speaking.
That's right.
Yes.
Now I'm speaking,
Yes.
Dr. Craig. That was a laugh from Lord Taylor. We explore how media can shape our understanding of the world around us. And if you'd like to jump in the conversation, you can message us on 0488811707 or send us a text on YouTube or Twitch. Yes. And we heard there from Simon and Garfunkel singing Baby Got Back, which is fantastic. It's by the kind of notorious mashup musician There I Ruined It. And yes, he mashed up, and it's a fascinating process that he puts together here, where he'll first sing the song in his voice, then he'll get this AI program to then change his voice. So he'll sing it with new lyrics, Baby Got Back first, and then he'll get the AI to moderate from his sung version of Simon and Garfunkel doing Baby Got Back. So he tries to do a impersonation first, and then he uses the AI to synthesize further a pretty close parody there to Simon.
So it's worth, like Paul Simon, definitely.
Worth tracking down, Baby Got Back, by Simon and Garfunkel. So, as I mentioned on this show, we look at everything in and around the world of media, and we're going to be doing some news stories first. Then, in the second half of the show, we're going to be picking up what we did last week, which was exploring the Superman series, which ended up having an Australian version back in 1949.
Yeah.
So today we're looking at episode 2.
I listened to it.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm going to play some of the American version of the same episode because the script's the same.
Oh, right.
The 1938 American episode 2. So we'll see if we can actually hear an Australian accent compared to the original original American, sorry. So I've got a new segue tune.
Okay.
To go into news.
Nice.
I think it's dramatic. It's a kabuki yo. It's pretty much one of those meme sound clips that's used in Discord chats.
Yeah, because that's what we're about here at Media Mothership. It's just memes, isn't it?
Well, I hope to
become a meme.
One can't, but one can't simply become a meme.
Exactly.
It has to be organic, or else you're just grass puppeting. First story, authorities tell tourists don't just rely on Google Maps while traveling through outback Queensland. This is an article from ABC News. I love it because I have been collecting stories of disasters caused by Google Maps.
Okay.
Have you ever had a disaster caused by Google Maps where it's completely misdirected you?
I kind of have. It was up in, about South Hobart sort of thing, and it says to go down this road, and you go down this road, and there isn't really any road to go down.
Our family car was completely ruined as the result of going down a road that one wasn't meant to go down. So certainly I feel I can speak. We never did the kind of, it appears that Google Maps is getting us to drive into the ocean moment, which you have to commit to. But this is an article talking mainly because we're heading into the Easter long weekend, and they're warning for tourists, and mainly tourist safety, that particularly in Queensland, outback authorities are concerned about tourists getting lost or stuck due to following Google Map directions. And this was based on a story of someone indeed that had been lost. They got they followed Google Maps. I think it was Northern Territory or Queensland, and they went off. They thought they were on the road because it was following Google Maps, and they got bogged, and they couldn't get the car out, and they got stuck there for 2 weeks, and they had to just stay with the car, as they suggest you do. They were found, fortunately, but yeah, they explained they were following Google Maps. So yes, tourist authorities have warned not to follow it. And again, yeah, so as they're saying, that it's a big season here in Australia, the Easter school holidays, the beginning of outback tourist season with many visitors expected. Have you ever done the outback tourist season? Have you
I've never
outback
heard of
toured?
that before.
Done the great, Mad Max experience?
No.
Become
I haven't gotten any
wild and
tattoos.
feral and
Or get a mohawk. Or anything.
mohawked up, exactly. Yeah. So their advice they offer mainly is that local authorities advise against solely relying on Google Maps and suggest consulting physical maps
Or Apple Maps.
or competitors. Do you have a physical map in your car?
I think I do, yes. But it's from like 20 or 30 years ago, so a lot of the roads don't exist or...
Yeah, because it used to be the way you had to get around. And I recently found my, I think it's my 2002 copy of Lonely Planets Tasmania, which I think I could use as... Sorry, Tassie really hasn't changed that much. That you should check road conditions and inform someone of travel plans, right? And for safety measures, they say it's recommended to stay with your vehicle if lost and ensure it's well maintained, carry essential supplies like food, water, and fuel.
It's very important to let people know if you're going to do something that might... something bad might happen with. So, for example, I was walking along in the bush one day and I saw a body bag.
A body bag?
A body bag.
Is that like something you used in a morgue?
Yeah. And there was sort of what looked like a person in it. And so I texted quite a few of my friends and it was just like, if anything happens, I found a body bag at this location.
Right.
And then I went and checked it out and it was just full of firewood.
Wow. Or was it like the Burning Man? And that firewood was this folk horror thing that was symbolic, kind of inside out.
It was just firewood.
Firewood. Is putting firewood in a body bag good for transporting?
It wasn't a body bag. It was just a tarp. It was just a black tarp.
Just a black. Oh, right, like rolled up in tarp.
Yeah.
And you were thinking, wow. See, that's a wonderfully vivid imagination. Because you were by yourself.
Yeah.
Did you hear? Let me just. Did you hear that kind of sound in the background? The kind of Friday 13th.
There might have been
killer
some
sound?
wind. Yeah.
Okay, so do be careful with that. Let me. That's story one. Here we go. Let's now move on to story two. Yeah. So
Yeah.
we could totally beat
Rap over this.
Yeah. All right. So the BBC won't use AI to promote Doctor Who again.
Wow. So they did to begin with. I didn't know this.
Yeah. So the BBC won't use AI to promote Doctor Who again after being yelled at by fans. It's a great title from Gizmondo. So the BBC announced its intent to experiment with generative AI weeks ago, only to learn that few forces on this earth are as potent as annoyed Doctor Who fans. So the story goes on that the BBC had tested using this generative AI for marketing, specifically for the latest Doctor Who series. And yeah, it's mainly caused this huge backlash by fans who, simply were appalled at anything to do with AI and, were threatening boycotts and so forth. So it seemed to escalate quickly. And that was it. Like, I came across that article, and then shortly after that, the ABC News reported on a similar occurrence with a horror movie that's currently being marketed, which I'm actually really looking forward to watching. It's Australian, or it's a film directed by an Australian director. It's called Late Night with the Devil. It's the one, nice. Yeah, it sounds like a really interesting concept. The concept is, I think it's a 1960s or 70s talk show during Halloween, and they decide for a stunt to bring in allegedly possessed woman. So it's a bit like bringing in Reagan just as she was undergoing the exorcism, or not the exorcism, but possession. Mm-hmm. And yeah, the video clip for the trailer, looks fantastic. So anyway, it sparked this huge debate due to its use of AI-generated imagery, which has led to calls for boycotts. It's been released into the US to quite a bit of success so far. But yeah, what had happened was they'd had to admit to having used, I think, 2 or 3 designs for some of the props that were used. There's a skeleton prop that kind of features in the background of the stage design, right? So, you've got to picture this kind of Don Lane, Live with Don Lane kind of TV chat show with a host and guests coming
So
in.
it's a real prop that has got this AI image on it. So it's not particularly like the image is AI. It's a real thing, but with an AI image prop on it.
From what I know, and I haven't seen how it's used, but the image they give here is of just a graphic design for a skeleton dancing, right? Night Owls, which is the name of the chat show. And that image, you can see by the hands, is AI based because the fingers are all kind of warped. And so people were looking at those background designs, and that just appears in the background of the stage. So yeah, it's kind of done as maybe a card coming up next, kind of thing, or it could be in the background. But yeah, anyway, it seems to have caused this huge overreaction with people calling for a boycott. Oh my God, it's AI. Which, yeah, I've got to admit, I mean, for a film which is getting quite a lot of acclaim, 3 images seems a little bit of an overreaction to suddenly say this whole piece is morally bankrupt and needs to be boycott. Gosh, how many of our shows would be in trouble?
But when it comes to Doctor Who, you can sort of see more how it's sort of viable there.
Well, I guess they've got a lot of money, though. Doctor Who, you could say that. Why aren't they spending money on graphic designers would be the argument against that.
And the whole point of Doctor Who is that they made really poor, cheaply done monsters. And so going through to, what's it called? My mind's gone blank.
Computer AI.
Computer aided imagery, which is what we're at now, and then going straight through into AI imagery, it feels like it's very much disrespecting its past.
In terms of actually making it look better than it should be.
In terms of using AI instead of using bubble wrap.
That's a cute idea. That instead of underpaying a kind of overworked graphic designer to create something half baked, a la the classic image of Doctor Who's monster designs from the 70s. That is the AI. Well, and I guess in a way, this is what the article's saying, or they're defending themselves as saying they used it to experiment with, and they did further edit and design on top of the AI design, which, it's a tool, and if you're editing it further and creating it to sit in a unified presence in the world building you're doing on the show, then, do the ends justify the means?
We know that Sora AI, which is the new up-and-coming ChatGPT for video creation.
Yes.
Which is, they've released a couple of videos recently, and they are pretty good quality. I think this week they stated that they have been talking to Hollywood, just in general, trying to get into basically every single movie creation, production house sort of thing.
Which I imagine would possibly lead to some fan boycotts. if even, I mean, it seems in these 2 cases, it's when fans have forensically discovered the AI and felt that it's not been transparent, that the designers, the director, the marketing team haven't been transparent that this was generated by AI. I mean, even the Disney show Secret Wars got into a lot of trouble.
Oh, is that the one with the theme title at the beginning?
The opening title sequence was AI generated, but that kind of made sense because it was all about
AI,
humans being replaced by doppelgangers, and can you tell the difference? And in a way, they were literally replacing graphic designers with AI. And yeah, fans noticed the difference and weren't happy. It does feel, though, that there's this kind of media panic around AI, which, I totally I think it's a fascinating conversation. And I do think there's clear moments of exploitation happening here where people aren't being compensated, or the type of training which is going on for these AI is not transparent, and even the engineers themselves struggle to explain why certain solutions are coming up with by AI. So it does seem to be, at a cultural dimension, the creation of these AI are highly problematic.
What I'm saying is that we are going to start seeing it in every movie. It is going to become the norm as soon as Sora gets into, Universal and all of these Metro Golden Mine. Does that exist anymore? I don't know.
MGM, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I guess that's why there was a writer's strike recently. It picked up on some of the concerns of writers with AI-generated content. So, yeah, I imagine there'll be... it's a great case of disruptive technology at the moment.
But you look at one of the series of best movies ever created, which is...
Doctor Who?
No. Of movies.
Of movies?
Yep.
The best movie series, Psycho.
No.
2, 3, it's great.
No.
It gets better after...
Keep guessing.
Jaws 4.
Oh, come on.
Michael Caine.
No, think from my perspective. Best movie series ever.
Oh, well, it's going to be Harry Potter.
No.
You literally did an AI-generated radio drama of Harry Potter.
Yeah, but that's just because I like getting Dumbledore to start killing people.
But there's no Korean. Is there a K-pop movie franchise?
No, Lord of the Rings.
I didn't see you as a Lord of the Rings guy.
Lord of the Rings has got so much, miniatures.
Yeah, where to workshop.
And in terms of, if you look at if you watch the movies now, it holds up now. It still holds up now. Sure.
Yeah, many people point to practical effects.
But the only thing that doesn't hold up is the fly through down into what is called Auckland. Let's call it that. And because that one is fully computer generated.
Yeah, that kind of uncanny valley. I think maybe people will look back nostalgically at some of the earlier attempts in the 80s and 90s in particular, when it was even more clunky, to get CGI into movies. Like I'm thinking of some horror movies and such, which had AI there. I think it's so bad. It's so bad it's good. Yeah, who knows?
I think it's practical effects. More movies need to have practical effects.
Yeah, I don't... I mean, I guess if you've got a lot of money, they take a lot of money. All right,
wise words.
Correct. And now I'm paralyzed from the neck down, and I cannot move it.
All right. That was less musical, King Julian kind of soundbite there to get us into the next story.
I don't know what that is.
I only played. Don't worry, trust me, we'll be listening to a lot of these
sound
in
bites.
the new show. All right, so next story is just setting up the second half of the show. So DC's new Superman movie, release date, cast, director, and everything else we know. So basically, it's interesting looking at Superman right now because there's some interest as to how James Gunn and Peter Safran, who are the co-heads of DC Studios, are going to kick off this next era, right? The brand new and improved DC world-building kind of multiverse or whatever it is that they're going to be setting up. And it's going to start with the next Superman movie. So it had been titled Superman Legacy, and there's a lot of discussion around the cast, the director, the release date, and so forth. So at the moment, it's kind of one of these things like, it's all coming together, but everything's very fluid. It could all just change. It was called Superman Legacy, now it's just called Superman.
So it's a reboot?
Yes, it's going to be a reboot.
Another reboot.
It's not going to have Henry Cavill, of course. Because
he was good, though.
Yeah. Look, I really enjoyed Man of Steel. I thought his performance... In fact, there was an interesting piece I was listening to about Henry Cavill, and they were saying that Henry Cavill was fantastic as Superman. In many ways, Henry Cavill, outside of the Superman movie, was so much like Superman, right? Or Clark Kent. He's this kind of, generous fan aware.
Yeah.
You know,
He can fly.
helping people.
Um,
So at the moment for stars of Superman, allegedly there's been some casting. So David Corenswet is Superman. I don't know. Nathan Fillion, I do know from Serenity, is going to be Guy Gardner. I thought Guy Gardner was one of the Green Lanterns.
I've never heard of any of these people.
We've got Superman, Lois Lane, Guy Gardner, Lex Luthor, Hawkgirl, Mr. Terrific, The Engineer, Jimmy Olsen, Metamorpho, Teschmacher.
And Mermaid Man and
Otis.
Barnacle Boy.
Why not? There's no trailer yet for Superman. Who's directing it? James Gunn is the writer and director of Superman. And it looks like it's being scheduled, hopefully, for July 11th, 2025. All that is to say... yeah. So that's why it might be timely to look at Superman. So now let's move on to our next section. Nani?
Wow, we have gone full
Okay.
memes, haven't we?
Oh, this is my meme playlist, of course. So, yeah. You don't have one?
Nope.
All right, so now what I want to do is look at episode 2 of the case study of Superman. So the Superman radio drama, which began back in 1940 in the US, or 38, I think came out. The radio drama began airing in 1940. In Australia, 9 years after, the script was performed by Australian voice actors.
Yeah.
The lead actor who plays Superman, Leonard Teale, was famous for later on performing in the Homicide TV series, which I missed, but then again, that is the 1950s, 60s. Performs as Superman, and was reasonably popular.
My name's bloody Superman.
So we are going to listen now to some examples of episode 2 of Superman.
What happened in episode 1?
Episode 1 was the destruction of Krypton.
Okay.
So it is a kind of prequel in a way. It's kind of an act 1 where Superman doesn't appear. We see baby
Yoda.
Superman. We see Jor-El, right? And it's such an interesting story to look at, I think, Superman, in terms of the theme of this show, which is, how media, reflects or provides a window into the world around us. I mean, Superman, very much people point to as being ground zero for the genre of the superhero becoming popular. He's considered one of the very early superheroes that was created.
I thought that was Jesus.
Wow. Yeah, well, yeah, it is Easter.
Bring it into Easter.
It is Easter. Oh, well, many people say, actually, the story of Superman is really similar to Jesus, because you think of the story of Jesus, which is God.
Had the power of flight.
Apart from all those great skills, he gave his only son to humans, to Earth, right? He sent his only son down, right? So much like Jor-El in Superman, sends his only son, the father of Superman.
Okay,
So Superman is Superman's father is Jor-El, I think, or is that Superman's Kryptonian name? And then he sent his son to Earth, right? So there's a kind of Jesus parallel. Many people point to Moses being a stronger connection. The story of Moses, of course, the Pharaoh goes to kill all the Jewish boys that are born, and a Jewish mother saves her son by sending her son down the river in a basket.
Yeah.
Right, so similar to. So anyway, there are some religious parallels.
So Superman came here in a basket down a river. Is that right?
Well, as the last episode, the destruction of Krypton, you've seen that, heard that, read that. But yeah, it is. So it is one of these texts which does set up these ideas of the morally, fighting for truth and justice identity of a superhero.
Okay.
So, it certainly helped. The radio series in particular certainly helped broaden that mythology and reach a bigger audience than just the comic books.
Is it counted as like canon?
It's an interesting question because I was looking on the internet about actors that have played Superman, and indeed, the Australian Superman from 1949 appears in a lot of lists as people that have played Superman, right? All the other actors, of course, like Christopher Reeve, Henry Cavill, who's the guy that played him in the 50s TV show? Anyway, we'll look for that later. Anyway, comes up. But then also the Australian actor appears, Leonard Teale. And look, it's interesting because the Australian series played, there were over 1,000 episodes.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, it played
Well,
every...
they're quite short, I suppose.
Yeah, 15 minutes. They played Monday to Friday at 6:30 p.m. It appears that it only played in Sydney. It only aired in Sydney on 2GB, so it was created just for that station in Sydney. And at the moment, I've only been able to find 4 episodes of those over 1,000, 1,020. 2 of those episodes have been kind of digitally or remastered by the
Remastering people. Yeah.
National Film and Sound Archive of Australia that you can check out, and 2 others are in the wild on YouTube, just hanging out there. So there were. Well, if we have time next week, we might play the other 2. But what I want to set up is I want to this week play because we've actually got Superman
In the studio, right here.
no in this episode.
Okay.
It does make some changes to the original story, because initially the story of Superman is he, is put on the spaceship to escape Krypton, sent to Earth, crashes on Earth. Do you
In the
remember
desert?
what happens next? No, in Kansas. It's
Oh,
taken
is this
in
the
by
original one?
Yep,
Okay.
Ma and Pa Kent
I don't know the original
as a
one.
child, and then is brought up on their farm until he is 18 or 20 or something, and then he decides to go to Metropolis to become a reporter. However, in this version, as we'll hear,
He crashes in the desert.
Superman lands again in Earth
In the desert.
as a
says in the desert.
fully grown human.
Yeah.
Fully grown human. Does it say he's in the desert?
Yeah. 100%. Because I listened to it on the drive here.
Yeah, oh, great. Yeah, so, let's listen to it then. So what we'll do is we'll play the start of the Australian version, and then I might compare it a little bit to the American version. So we get a sense of some of the questions I'm curious to ask about it are, how has it been adapted? Is there any kind of Australianness at all?
Like accents and stuff like that.
Accents, yeah. Culture, right? Does Superman ride a kangaroo? Well, the Superman comic book series has Superdog. Does this version have Super Kanga? Superoo. Oh, Superoo. They could have totally done a cross promotion there. Character portrayal. Does Leonard Teale, who plays Superman, differ from the American version? Because the voice actor there was quite famous. Does he bring any unique qualities to it? There aren't any narrative changes because they're literally just reading the exact same script. 1 or 2 slight tweaks, but nothing big. Production value is slightly different.
Okay, yeah.
So as we're listening to it, it's fun to slightly lower budget of the Australian version. Historical context fascinating to me because the US version aired in 1940, just a year before the US entered World War II, right? So it's very much a kind of the world's in peril, the rise of Nazi Germany, a kind of increasing war footing that America was getting towards. So yeah, in Australia though, and Superman. Interestingly, with Superman in World War II, it was decided by DC and the editors never to send Superman to fight in World War II because they felt it would diminish the actual reality of trying to win this war. That if they had episodes of, because of course comic books were one of the most popular reading sources for GIs and mini soldiers. And if they had Superman comics they were reading where Superman was like busting up the Germans with no problems it might diminish the idea of actually this is not as easy as simply smashing through. So instead, Superman stayed in the US and helped raise war bonds and fought local crime there.
Wow.
I know. Captain America, interestingly, there's some of that famous Captain America comic book page where he does punch Hitler out. Superman never did. And the legacy, I guess the legacy of this Australian version, I think it's unknown, right?
Yeah,
I mean, no one
definitely.
knows that there was an Australian, a completely Australian produced Superman series from 49 on, had over 1,000 episodes. Yeah. So let's listen now to the opening of the Superman Australian radio series, episode 2, first broadcast in 1949. Here we go.
Superman! Superman, eighth wonder of the modern world, visitor from a distant planet whose strength knows no limits, whose endurance is beyond anything humanity has ever known. We have seen how the child of Jor-El and Lara was placed in the rocket ship and sent on his way to Earth. During the long journey of the rocket ship to Earth, the child has become a man. The rocket landed in a desert. Superman stepped forth, fully grown, to explore the strange new world in which he found himself.
All right, so that was the intro.
Yep, where Superman landed
Lands
in the desert.
And it doesn't say where, so it could be outback Australia still. Right? So your local, and this was aimed at kids in Australia. So your 8-year-old might be thinking, wow, thank God Google Maps isn't out yet, because I'd be trying to drive there right now. Go to Queensland over Easter and get there. All right, so what I want to do is play the American version of that same intro.
Okay.
To hear, can we hear the difference between the two? I'll just put it back a bit so we get that Australian intro feel, and then I'll immediately play into the
rocket ship and sent on his way to
there
Earth.
it is.
During the long journey of the rocket ship to Earth, the child has become a man. The rocket
So he's
landed
become a
in the desert.
man.
Superman stepped forth, fully grown, to explore the strange new world in which he found himself.
I tell you this much, in the Australian version, you really got to get used to that whistle sound. I mean, so in particular, pay attention to that. That's the production value.
Okay.
So here's the start of the US version. This is from 1940.
Superman. Up in the sky. Look, it's a bird.
It's a plane.
It's Superman.
So it's interesting because the US version has that, look up in the sky, it's a bird, it's a plane, it's Superman. The Australian version doesn't have that classic opening. Also, they don't use that bloody whistle. they use more of a wind generating thing.
Whooshing.
Yeah. So obviously, the theater of the mind that the golden age of radio is celebrated for. There's some bit of equipment like a washing machine, or something they've got, and they pull against these. Anyway, keep listening now.
And now, Superman, eighth wonder of the modern world, visitor from a distant planet whose strength knows no limits, whose endurance is beyond anything humanity has ever known. We have seen how the child of Jor-El and Lara was placed in the rocket ship and sent on his way to Earth. During the long journey of the rocket ship to the Earth, the child has become a man. The rocket landed in a desert. Superman stepped forth full grown to explore this strange new world in which he found himself. Today, as our story continues, we find him hovering with his curious power above a quiet highway in Indiana. A trolley car is just pulling up the hill, and as Superman wheels and turns in curious flight, unseen below, a man and a boy come out of the shed that serves as waiting room. Morning, Professor.
Good morning.
Going into town.
Yes, that's right, John. Taking Jimmy to the fair.
It is a great show, all right. Well, I reckon you're my only passengers. Make yourselves at home. I'm going to get me a drink of water.
All right.
I'll pause
I'm
it.
taking Jimmy to the fair.
Oh, it's great. The accents. So we've got this Irish bus driver guy. We've got the old professor guy and Jimmy. Let's go to the Australian version, though, because I'm curious to see if there are accents. Because already we've heard in that little intro
Irish,
setup.
American.
Yeah. Let's see if we've got an Irish Australian, maybe.
Today, as our story continues, we find him hovering with his curious power above a quiet highway in a quiet country town. A bus is just pulling up the hill, and as Superman wheels and turns in curious flight, unseen from below, a man and a boy come out of the shed that serves as waiting room. Morning, Professor.
Good morning, John.
Going to town?
Yes, that's right. Taking Jimmy to the carnival.
It's a great show, all right. Well, I reckon you're my only passengers. Make yourselves at home. I'm going to get a drink of water.
Yes, all right.
Why,
You know, I have real difficulty remembering who's talking.
Yeah.
Because the advantage of the US version there is that having an Irish guy as the bus conductor, and then your professor is just an American accent, at least distinguishes them. Because when they're not distinguished, it's like man's voice, old man voice, old man voice. Young voice is easy, so yes, we'll hear it. So it does lose a little bit there, I think, in the vocal performance. Isn't quite as strong. Do you hear the difference between Australian and American accents?
More or less.
Yeah.
But
It's
because
not strong.
because that's sort of like an oldie.
Yeah, that kind of BBC Australian
It is
voice.
still quite British influence.
Yeah, it's not Kath and Kim.
No.
kind of level, Paul Hogan. Because a few episodes ago we did a story on Australian accents, and they mainly, I think there were two categories of Australian accents. There was that very broad Steve Irwin accent, or Paul Hogan accent, the very broad Australian accent, and then there was more of a, I think, refined Kate Blanchett.
Like Puel and Pool.
Yes, that was state differences. But they were saying, yeah, there are Australian accents like Steve Irwin, and there are Australian accents that are more refined, closer to a British accent like Kate Blanchett. All right. So here, I think we're hearing more of that refined 1949, which is not surprising. Australia notoriously kind of polished away at least for its news reports, that kind of broader Australian accent. But we might come across. We'll keep listening here to the Australian radio series as this builds up.
Ed, we've got the bus all to ourselves.
Yes, regular private car.
Where'd the driver go?
Oh, just over to the spring for a drink. It's a mighty hot day.
Well, he'd better hurry. We'll be late.
We can't start without the driver.
I wonder if that's a real young boy in the studio, or if, because it's always interesting that the voice of Bart Simpson, for instance, is what's her name, Nancy something or other, a middle-aged American woman. A lot of the Pokemon, like Ash, is voiced by a female voice actor. So it wouldn't surprise me if it's maybe.
When I first heard it, I thought it was a woman putting on a voice. Yeah.
But we are starting. Look, Dad. The doors have closed. We're moving.
Right, the brakes. Something's happened to the brakes.
Oh, let's get out. Quick, open the doors.
No, they're jammed. They're tight shut.
Dad, we're going faster and faster. We're going downhill. And look, there's a tree fallen right across the roadway.
Why, look. Look there in the sky.
What is it?
It's a man.
Why, he's flying.
Can't be. It's not possible.
Dad, he's coming straight at us. He's swooping down, coming through the roof. Dad!
Quick, grab hold of me.
No,
Put me down. Let me go.
let me go.
One under each.
Do you kind of understand what's happening there? It seems a bit
So like is it a train or a bus or something?
bus.
Bus.
Yeah.
And then he flies down and grabs them, and their first thing is, "Get off me!"
Get off me.
Even though
That's very
it's like
rude.
a runaway bus.
It isn't. I do love that. I mean, again, it's theater of the mind, so they've gone to vocalize. Like, look over there. Is that a man flying?
What is it? What is it?
So what's interesting here also is, yes, Superman flies. In the original comic book, he leapt or he'd leap to then
Could he
fly a
glide?
bit. Probably wind currents.
Wow.
Save some energy.
Mm-hmm.
I would. All right.
Up through the top. Hold on.
Bloody
The
whistle.
bus. It's going to crash. Well, we got out of that just in time. The bus is a wreck. Smashed into 1,000,000 pieces.
Where are you going? What are you going to do to us?
What's happening? Put us down. Don't be frightened. You're all right.
So this, of course, is the introduction of Superman. Like, you've got to imagine here that you're listening along. The series is called Superman, but this is the first appearance of our hero. So here we're going to lead up to the idea of how you're writing this script to introduce this character and the values of this character, I guess. Obviously, he's performed a heroic act.
Of course, he talks like this. Of course, he's a hero.
It is good, yeah. So we have the Superman voice, don't we? And as we'll listen, it works because again, you'll hear the same actor doing the Clark Kent voice, and then the Superman voice, which I think is going to and one of those things where we'll hear the different performance of Leonard Teale from Australia, and Bud Collinger, I think, is the US actor that does it. It is interesting also that, as we'll hear, Superman's fully grown. So here we'll hear, I guess, his character, what is Superman in 1949 Australia.
I had to get you out of there in a hurry. Pulling you out through the roof was the only way. Now we're going down again. Down.
Because you wouldn't know, I guess.
Exactly.
Down. There you are. Safe and sound in a field.
Well, I don't know what to say.
Oh, it's quite all right, Professor. Getting you and the boy out of that bus was nothing.
I can't believe it.
Who are you, anyway? Where did you come from?
I have no name. I come from a world that no longer exists. Here in this world of yours, men would call me a Superman.
It's an interesting point, Superman, because Clark Kent, Superman, Jor-El, one of his key values, of course, is this modesty, that he's, self-effacing, yet he's labeled this preposterously exaggerated term, Superman. So it's always been this tension for, I think, writers. How does he get that name, right? It seems a little immodest for him to call himself that, because it kind of goes against the core codes of that character. Yet here, I guess he doesn't give himself the name. He says, people of your world would refer to someone like me as a Superman. And they're like, well, okay, you're not calling yourself Superman, but yeah, because I think we could, people around here would refer to someone like me as a genius. And I guess we have just seen him fly.
I suppose,
so he has backed that up. All right, we'll keep pushing on. And again, what we're hearing are the core qualities of Superman. Like, what are the rules of this version of Superman?
So he was expelled out as a baby, and then grew into a man within the pod.
In the pod, yeah,
then
which was meant to be
came to
quite
Earth.
small.
So how did he learn? Did he have audiobooks to listen to?
You would have had to have.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it seems... I don't know if there are episodes in this radio series that explain what went on. But I do know, I was reading into this, that the daughter, or the niece of Superman, right? Supergirl. So she is... She arrives on Earth fully grown, and when her parents put her in the escape pod, they gave her educational material to watch. So she did grow up. She took longer to get to Earth, something like this. Took longer to get to Earth, but she studied on the trip. I can't remember now. Which is this version of Superman. I mean, they do, I guess, if you wanted to tell a quick story, it does jump straight into the action. You don't have to worry about the kind of pre-Superman identity. He's just Superman straight away. But it does mean, it's a great question. Where does he get his values from? Because without the parents, Ma and Pa Kent, who are this, salt of the earth, perfect parents, that gave Clark Kent his upbringing and therefore this kind of wholesome American view of the world, where does he get that from then, if he doesn't get it from his parents? He seems to get it from this conversation as we keep listening.
Oh, it's a dream. A wild, impossible dream.
But, Dad, it happened. We saw it. He flew down and took us under his arms.
And out of the bus, that's all. Nothing so strange about that.
You saved our lives, Jimmy's and mine. I don't understand even now, but I'm very grateful.
Are you, Professor?
I do doubt it.
Would you do something to prove it?
Would we? Anything at all?
Then make me a promise. Promise that you will never say anything about what has happened.
What? Don't you want people to know?
Not just yet. I want...
So it's an interesting thing here, and they point out that the first few episodes of the Superman series, what's unusual about it is that Superman wants to remain unknown. He doesn't want to be seen publicly making all of these big heroic acts. So a lot of the episodes deal with him kind of trying to secretly help people and do things. And this is what they're setting up now, that he doesn't want people to know him yet because, as we're going to hear next, he wants to do a bit of anthropology, it seems.
No one to know, except those I help. Will you promise?
Well, if you wish.
Good. Now, I want your advice.
You want advice from us?
You know this world. I'm a stranger. You know the people in it, and I have still to find them out.
You want to meet men, is that it?
Not meet them, Professor.
I just love that line. You want to meet men? That's how that should be delivered. Because it's weird. It's that. I mean, there we go. 1949 sexist, misogynistic Australia. It doesn't actually engage with a plurality of life, let alone a multi-plurality of life. It's like, well, of course it's men to meet. Oh, well, there are these other things called women, but so it's just so awkward. Actually, I'll put it back a bit because I want to hear that again. And we do know Lois Lane forms a character, not in this episode, but the next one.
I'm a stranger. You know the people in it, and I have still to find them out.
You want to meet men, is that it?
Not meet them, Professor. Observe them. Study them. See them at their best and at their worst. Know which to help and when help is needed. If you can tell me that...
Dad, can we help him?
Well, yes, I think so. To mingle with people, to see men at the highest and the lowest. If that's what you want, well, let me think. How about a newspaper? A great metropolitan daily.
A newspaper?
Yes, join their staff. Be a reporter.
Oh, but you can't do it in those clothes. Not that blue costume with the cloak and the shield on your breast. Gee, you couldn't.
Jimmy, these are the cloak and shield of Superman. If I become as other men, I shall dress as other men.
Well, you'll have to assume some kind of a name. What do they call you?
I have no name.
Well, how about Clark Kent?
I've heard of all of these things, but a newspaper?
Paper news. I do like, I was thinking if this was done now, they might say, well, you must be a
TikTok
influencer.
star.
That's right, TikTok. A TikTok. Yes, you would be perfect in your clothing right now. Your blue spandex would be perfect. So that's how he gets to be a news reporter, which is, it's a great identity to have if you're needing to have a character that is finding out what's happening and can act on it and become Superman. A reporter makes sense. I do quickly want to jump to one final example, which is the voice where he goes from Superman to Clark Kent. So what we're going to do is skip forward a bit. He goes to Metropolis. He goes to the Daily Planet. He meets Perry White, the editor. He begs for a job, and he is given it on the condition that he kind of solve this current big story.
That's a
Either clairvoyant
Yeah,
or the luck.
All right, here we
In spite of this,
You couldn't. Come back here! Wait!
All right.
Pardon me. If
So he's in Perry White's office. He's just been taken out to go into the waiting room now. So he's talking as Clark Kent at the moment. This is the
that
Australian
call
version.
did come from the wolf, I should be inclined to believe it.
Eh? How do you know who was speaking?
If I were you, I'd warn the officials in charge of the Silver Clipper.
Now, look here. You couldn't.
The wolf.
I tickets and £50.
Just skip forward to when he...
Wait here.
What a rotten night.
Don't fall out that window. It's 20 stories down.
Beautiful view, even in the fog.
You wait right here till I get your money. Then I'll introduce you to a few real newspapermen.
Plains Grandin, 2,000 miles to go. But sorry, Miss Smith, afraid I can't wait. Clark Kent may need a plane, but Superman doesn't.
There you go. So that's the Australian version of that. We'll hear now the American version of that same scene, going from Clark Kent to
in charge of
Superman.
Plane's grounded. 2,000 miles to go. Sorry, Miss Smith. I'm afraid I can't wait. Clark Kent may need a plane, but Superman doesn't. Up with a window. And out.
It's not as strong, is it, actually?
Wow, that's loud.
Sorry, I wanted to make sure people could hear it. It's not as strong. So I think Leonard Teale actually does quite a good job
yeah.
going from the more mild-mannered Clark Kent to the Man of Steel, Superman. Yeah, so there we go. That's set up. Australia, Superman. Not as strong vernacular as I was, and wow, yeah. I mean, once they're doing the same script.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty much Media Mothership this Easter weekend.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening. I think, well, yeah, I was surprised actually to get a link to Easter. That, in fact, some people, point to a connection between the story of Superman and story of Christ or Moses as well. Coming up next, keep listening because it's K-Pop Unlimited. DJ TJ, are there any things going on in K-Pop Unlimited?
Yeah, we've got some good tunes. We've always got some good tunes, but it's particularly good tunes.
That's great. I like the particularly good ones. So this has been Dr. Craig from Media Mothership, joined by Lord Taylor, as always. Yep. Show notes are available on the episode via YouTube, Twitch, or your podcast provider of choice. We've got one more episode next week, then we're taking a short 2-week break. Do listen in. We'll probably go a little deeper into the Superman stuff. I did find an episode that has more of an Australian accent.
Okay, yeah.
In like a 5-second moment. Yeah, so keep listening now. Coming up next is K-Pop Unlimited.
You're listening to Edge Radio.